Heyo, Lloyd Ruhl, aka MegaBlitzz. In today's video, we're looking at some PokeBeach news. Now, I really wasn't gonna make a video. I kind of stopped really making PokeBeach like update videos. There's something where I kind of just preferred making like decklist videos and stuff. However, I am gonna be in Florida for about a week, so I figured why not make a PokeBeach video. I'm gonna be on the beach in Florida for most of my time there, and yeah, so before I head off on my trip, I'm actually packing right now. My suitcase is behind me there on the bed, getting filled up with stuff. And I head out pretty soon. By the time you're actually watching this video, I'll already be in Florida, maybe on my way back. Depends on when I upload it. But anyway, so let's just kind of scroll through here, see what's going on. Right now we have a huge shortage problem with like TPCI and distribution companies and things like that. And hopefully they are now going to be catching up. That's kind of what this first article here is. And that was the reason why I actually wanted to make this video entirely, was because it's just been like this ongoing problem where everybody's just been talking about how they can't get Pokemon cards at any local game stores or even big distribution centers like, you know, Walmart or big box stores, I should say, Target, things like that. So let's just kind of scroll through here. Following initial print runs, TPCI has been busy reprinting the past items like Surging Sparks, Booster Boxes, and Prismatic Evolution Elite Trainer Boxes. So, scalpers get to continue scalping for their, you know, their Pikachu and their Sylveon. That's a whole other thing. This will be a little bit of a rant you'll probably hear. But I'm kind of over Pokemon just, like, printing the, like, hot stuff. The stuff that scalpers are scalping, right? Journey Together, Surging Sparks, and Prismatic Evolutions are probably the big three. They don't care to scalp Shrouded Fable, or, you know, Obsidian Flames, or Twilight Masquerade. Any of those order sets, they don't care. But you put a Pikachu in there, or you put the Evolutions in there, it gets kind of crazy. Journey Together is not as bad as I would probably say Prismatic Evolution is, but those are probably the big three, at least right now. So, they're continuing to talk about how they're already started arriving in stores in the United States. The new supply isn't as large as the original print runs, but it is a sizable amount. Prices on the secondary market are already dropping. So, I mean, I guess secondary market's kind of dropping. We've seen all different kinds of clips of people, you know, buying way too much Journey Together ETB boxes. There was a meme going around for a while. I'll see if I can clip it. If not, it is what it is. But basically, the guy just kind of kicks the boxes around and gets all irritated about it because he scalps way too much product and can't move it fast enough. So he's kind of just out of it, right? They're going to do a Zapdos EX collection box with more 151 product arriving at GameStop this month. I think it's only going to be at GameStop for these two things. But I could be wrong. And then also some more Pocket things. The Pokemon TCG has unprecedented demand since the release of Pokemon TCG Pocket in the fall. Currently, TPCI is printing future sets at maximum capacity. So, Pokemon realize that this is a problem. They're trying really hard and desperately to try to keep up with the demand. For those that don't know, they can only print a certain amount of cards. It's not like, well, what do you mean? Just print more cards. They just own all these big printers, right? Not exactly. They kind of, from my understanding, they hire a printer company. They get printed on huge, giant sheets of cards and then chopped up into individual cards and then stuffed in packs. Certain printers will only be running certain things for so long. That's why vintage exists, right? That's why older base set cards are now valuable. They're not going to get reprinted. Sure, we've gotten like, you know, the collection, the classic collection stuff. We got the celebration stuff where it's like the base set reprint, but like it's not like the Shadowless Charizard, right? So it's not really going to be the same thing. So they only print certain cards for a certain amount of time on certain sets for so long, and they have a certain limit or capacity or however long they can run those for, and that's kind of how that ends up working. So they continue to talk about how they will eventually catch up with the demand for Black Bolt and White Flare as well, especially with multiple release dates. So they're kind of trying to kind of telling people, hey, don't worry about it. And they proceed to tell that here. If you're a Pokemon TCG collector, it's always best to be patient for new product. Never give in to FOMO. FOMO being the fear of missing out. FOMO is a big thing that a lot of people end up having when it comes to, you know, I want the new product. I don't want to miss my chance. And I see people all the time kind of doing it. A lot of salesmen will also do it. Like you go to a car dealership and they're like, oh, well, I don't know. I had a guy looking at this car the other day. Fear of missing out on an opportunity, right? Never pay scalpers for product. Pokemon being like, yo, dude, just don't, right? Or whoever wrote this article also just kind of being like, don't do it. So Water Pokemon Master, but whatever. Pay attention to the short term, of course. But remember, collecting is always a long-term goal. That is exactly right. And then the kind of comments kind of proceed to go on, unless they completely flood the market and give all the product, whatever. Everybody's going to have difference of opinion, and I'm sure I'll probably get a couple comments below that I'm going to have different opinions on this as well. But it's nice to see that, things kind of look to be better, which is really nice. But we received word that black, white, and white flare allocation will be much less than Chromatic Evolutions. Most stores will receive no product. This is according to one of TPI's biggest U.S. distributors. So this is just kind of one of those things where we don't really know. We're just going to have to kind of wait and see, right? Everybody at their local GS, their local game store is going to be wanting to get their hands on some product. But let's just keep looking through some more stuff here. This is kind of the only things I really wanted to look at was that and some more of the Destined Rivals stuff and kind of the more recent things of the last week. I'm not going to do a whole catch-up video because I haven't made a PokeBeach video in, like I said, 2-3 months. But so that's going to be that. I should wear sunglasses for this video. Oh, that'd have been such a good idea. Do I have my sunglasses? I think they're in my suitcase. I'm not getting them out of my suitcase. Anyway, prepare for trouble, make it double. Destined Rivals is all going to be Team Rocket stuff. Some of it is going to be on TCG Live already, like Steven's Metagross and I think Marnie's Grimmsnarl and a couple other cards are already on TCG Live. By the time you guys watch this, a lot of pre-releases will probably already be done. I might try to go to a pre-release maybe when I'm in Florida. I'm not really sure. We're going to have to see. But anyway, some pretty cool cards. I'm actually pretty pumped for this set. There's a lot of cool things. I kind of missed out on the whole Gym Heroes set where it was Misty Seadra and Brock's Geodude. I didn't get to collect a lot of those cards because I wasn't playing or collecting at the time. But now, with Ethan's Typhlosion, which is pretty cool. And for those that don't know, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are my favorite games. I have a lot of fond memories of Kanto and up to Hoenn as well. I've kind of always just been a big Pokemon fan in general. Anyway, Ethan's Typhlosion is pretty cool. Got the Buddy Blast for 1 fire energy, 40 plus this does 60 damage for each of your Ethan's Adventure card in the discard pile. So trying to just put a bunch of stuff in there and then punch big with Ethan's Typhlosion. Misty's Gyarados. I probably will make a video about this deck, I'm sure, at some point, and it's going to be Misty's Gyarados does how much damage? And it'll be what it is. Splashing Panic for 70 times for 1 water energy. Discard top 7 cards of your deck. This attack does 70 damage for each Misty's Pokemon you discarded in this way. So just shove a bunch of Misty's Pokemon and discard a bunch of stuff, which is kind of nice. Pair that with Cypher Mania's Code Breaking. You're guaranteed hitting 140, which is kind of crazy. You hit 2 or 3 more, you're doing 280. So that's pretty neat. Going to the next one, Team Rocket's Tyranitar Sandstream. During Pokemon checkup, this Pokemon is in the active spot. You put 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's basic Pokemon. Kind of interesting. It kind of reminds me a lot of Frostlass, but, it doesn't have to have an ability. It just has to be a basic Pokemon, which I think is kind of cool. Its attack kind of sucks. Demolition Tackle for 180 discard energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So, I don't know. 4 energy is a lot to get there. Team Rocket's Mimikyu, Genstone Mimicry for 2 energy. Choose one of your opponent's active Terra Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. Now, this is pretty cool because this just makes Gardevoir insane, I think, in my opinion. Because now you're in a position where, you can just copy Phantom Dive from your opponent's Dragapult. You don't have to, worry about it, right? So you can now just also... You're like Regidrogo V-Star. You literally just get to copy Dragapult's attack, and we've already seen how insane that is, because for the longest time, future video coming out possibly about Dragapult EX, but Regidrogo V-Star was the best way to play Dragapult, and your primary attacker in Regidrogo V-Star was Dragapult, and the reason why you played Regidrogo was because it was just better. V-Stars were broken. You had the Legacy V-Star power, you had all kinds of different ways to get into the discard pile and attack quicker with Energy Switch and Teal Dancing and all that stuff. But now with V-Stars gone, you're just playing straight up Dragapult. We've already seen it have such a dominant presence in the meta. This card just copies it. So Gardevoir now just also gets to just attack with Dragapult. So that's pretty cool. But I don't want to get too much into that because, like I said, that's going to be a whole future video. But I don't know. This video is going to be just kind of me ranting and just kind of popping off. But anyway, Marnie's Grimmsnarl, I don't know what the card does off the top of my head. Honestly, I would have to find the translation. Let me see We'll find it here through this. Yamega EX is a card that I thought would be really cool. I thought about making a video about it. We're not too sure, though. It's got an ability, Buzz Boost. Once during your turn, when this Pokemon moves from your bench to the active spot, you may search your deck for 3 basic grass energy. Attach them to this Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. And then for 3 grass and a colorless Jet Cyclone to 10, you move 3 energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. So, I mean, I guess you could kind of do this whole, like, move the energy from Yanmega and then, like, Turo pick up Yanmega, or, like, scoop up Cyclone, pick it up, put the next one up, bench it, attack, move, evolve, and kind of start moving energy like that. But the problem is like, 280 is not that hard to get to in the Pokemon trading card game right now. And even if they can't get to 280, you really have to have a lot to kind of get that whole, like, combo that I just mentioned kind of going, but I don't know. So I'll try to make a deck out of it. I think it's a cool idea. Some of the other cool cards is Shaman. Shaman, unfortunately, cannot be searched by Buddy Puff. It does have the HP of 80. So you have to Nest Ball for it or Ultra Ball for it, I guess. But it has the ability Flower Curtain. And it prevents all damage done to your bench Pokemon without a rule box by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. So, prevent all damage done to your benched Pokemon without a rule box by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. So, this does not save, your Teal Mask Ogrepons or your Raging Bolts. This saves, this Dwebble. That's what it saves, because it has to not have a rule box, without a rule box. So, everybody thought Shaman was going to be super great, and it was like, oh my gosh, reprinting Manaphy. No, that's not the case. So, I mean, I guess it saves, like, the evolution of things, like your Duskulls and, your Charmanders and your Dreepies and such, but I don't know. I feel like the card's going to be really good in something like maybe Ancient Box, or maybe, Frost Ice Monkey Dory could be even something I could see this getting played in. But we'll have to see. Anyway, scrolling down through here, take a look at some more. I thought this card was actually pretty cool. The Hydrapple has the attack Hydra Breath for 1 grass. Discard 6 grass energy from your hand in order to knock out your opponent's active Pokemon. If you can't discard 6 energy in this way, this attack does nothing. I thought that was pretty cool, just like an instant knockout kind of thing, but getting 6 energy on a Pokemon is going to be kind of tough. There's not really a way to just, like, shove a bunch of energy into play that is grass, right? Like, we can do it with water with, like, Scalper. Metal, you can kind of hit, like, energies with Metang, with the Metal Maker. But, like, grass, like, the best thing you can do, I guess, is you could attach for turn, and then you could Teal Dance, like, 4 times, and then energy switch them all up, but then that only still puts you at 5, so you have to attach another turn before this. I don't know. This is just off the top of the head, but I think that would be kind of neat. Team Rocket's Spite Ops got ability to charge up once during your turn. You may attach a basic energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. Then Rocket Rush 30 times. It attaches 30 damage for each Team Rocket's Pokemon in play. Pretty cool. Abrovala EX. Got the Oil Machine attack for 1 grass energy. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon 6 times and do 20 damage to it. You can choose the same Pokemon more than once. So, basically, you can just, hit something on the bench for 20 damage or whatever, which is pretty cool. Kind of opens up to be able to knock out certain things. Still not quite getting to Dusknoir level, because Dusknoir has 130 HP, because of course it does. But that's neither here nor there. Aroma Shot, 160 damage. This Pokemon recovers from all special conditions, so that's pretty neat. Got the Rapska EX. This card sucks. Don't play this card, please. Going to the next one here. Got the Moltres EX. This card also, I think, is kind of bad, but the second attack is pretty cool. Evil Burn. Discard a Team Rocket's energy from this Pokemon. If you do, discard your opponent's active Pokemon on all attached cards. So you don't take the prize cards, though, because it's not knocking it out. It just gets discarded, which I think is kind of interesting. But, I mean, I can see, like, maybe a control-style deck with this. Like, pair this with Pidgeot, and then you just, like, discard your opponent's Pokemon over and over again. You can only do it 4 times, though, because Team Rocket energy, but still be pretty cool. We already talked about Typhlosion. The Magcargo is kind of interesting. Got an ability Melt and Flow. If this Pokemon has no energy attached, it has no retreat cost. Lava Burst for 3 fire energy. Discard up to 5 of fire energy from this Pokemon. Does 70 damage for each energy discarded in this way. So that's pretty interesting. But once again, we don't really have a way to, like, cheat fire energy into play quickly, which kind of stinks. You got the Ho-Oh. Once during a turn, you may attach up to 2 basic fire energy from your hand to one of your Aether's Pokemon. So you could go Ho-Oh into the Magcargo, and then, you could probably go attach for turn and then try to get another energy in that way. I really miss Magma Basin. I would think that would be great, but it's not here. It's attack 160, heal 50 from each of your Pokemon, which is kind of interesting. Misty's Side Deck. Once during your turn, this Pokemon is on your bench. You may discard the bottom card of your deck. If you do, discard all attached cards to this Pokemon and put this card on top. I thought this card was just goofy and like just super cute. I don't know. Side Deck's just a derp. Mrs. Gyarados, we talked about that. We haven't talked about Team Rocket's Articuno, which is kind of interesting. It's got an ability resistant to Veil, prevent all effects of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks done to your basic Team Rocket's Pokemon. So, I mean, you're kind of protecting your Team Rocket's Mewtwo EX, which I'm sure we'll get to that in this list somewhere. So Titan EX ability Snow Cover. Whenever your opponent plays an item or a supporter card from your hand, prevent all effects of that card done to this Pokemon. So you basically just can't boss it, which is kind of cool. Crush Press for 140. You may discard Stadium Play. If you do, does 140 more, so you're hitting for 280. You can get energy into play pretty quick on this one with Scalper, which is pretty cool. Dondozo, which is pretty interesting. Dondozo really hasn't seen anything, which I thought's kind of cool. Like, it hasn't seen, like, any, like, cool EXs or anything. We got a lot of, like, Tatsugiri stuff, but we haven't got, like, any Dondozo stuff. So I'm glad we really got a card for that. Electivire EX. I thought this card was actually really cool. This attack does 50 damage for two of your opponent's Pokemon. I really wish it was 60, but in order to make this card viable, it would have to be 70, I feel like. Because everybody's playing 70 HP basic stuff now because Dragapult exists, so they didn't make that mistake twice. High Voltage Press for 180. If this Pokemon has at least 2 extra energy attached, in addition to the attack cost, this attack does 100 more damage, so you can hit for 280, which is pretty cool. Couple more cards I want to talk about here. Team Rocket's Mewtwo EX is another big one. This Pokemon can't attack unless you have 4 or more Team Rocket Pokemon in play. And then Deletion Sphere, 160 damage. You may discard up to 2 energy from your bench Pokemon. It's tied to 60 damage for each energy, or each card discarded in this way. So you're going to hit some pretty big damage with the Team Rocket's Mewtwo. And then you have the, Articuno in play. This protects it. And then you got to figure out how you're going to power up energies to this thing. The best way probably is Xatu or just play Gardevoir. But it's a lot moving in one thing, I feel like. I thought this one was pretty cool. Rocket Mirror. Move all damage counters from one of your bench Team Rocket's Pokemon to your opponent's active Pokemon. I thought that was just a really cool ability, how they kind of kept like Mirror Coat as Wobbuffet's like signature attack as like similar to something in the card game, which I thought was kind of interesting. We talked about the Mimikyu. There's a couple other cards I did want to talk about before we ended up the video. Not the Regirock has a pretty interesting second attack. Giant Rock for 140. If your opponent's active Pokemon is stage 2, it does 140 more damage. So, I mean, you're hitting 280, but, like, it's still not enough. You have to play, like, Maximum Belt, and then you're hitting 330. But the problem is like, how are you getting these energies attached? We have no way to get fighting energy into play quickly. I guess you could Crispin twice, and I think Gutsy Pickaxe rotated, so you can't do that, unfortunately. Cynthia's Garchomp, we talked about it in a previous one, but Corkscrew for 1 fighting, you may draw into his card in your hand, then double fighting, 260 to card all energy from his Pokemon. Pretty crazy. Scrolling down here. Oh, this one was pretty cool. Intimidating Glare. If this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you can't play any Pokemon cards with abilities from their hand. I thought that was pretty interesting. A lot of these I think are really cool. I wish this card was actually good, but it sucks. For 3 energy to 100 and your opponent's Pokemon is poison, and then it put 8 damage counter instead of 1. So you could then just have the Stadium that makes them 2 more, so you're doing 10. But you're only hitting for 100. You're only hitting for 200, which feels so bad. I really wish it was better. Team Rocket's Crobat EX. Bite About. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you put 2 damage counters on 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, so you're putting 4 damage counters in play, which is pretty cool. And then you have Assassin's Return, 120 damage. You may put this Pokemon into your hand, discard all attached cards. I really wish Dark Patch was still a thing. That'd be pretty cool to be able to kind of like evolve into like get energy moving quickly. But we don't have that, unfortunately. Trying to think, there was a couple other like big supporter cards I wanted to talk about. This is Marnie's Grimmsnarl. Punk Up. When you play this Pokemon from your hand, you may search your deck for up to 5 dark energy attached into your March Pokemon anywhere you like. Shadow Bullet, 180, does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So that's pretty cool. Oh no, we lost the thing. So that's a pretty cool card. I don't know. I'm excited to see if a lot of these cards are going to get played. I think a lot of them are really cool. I'm really excited for this Team Rocket set. I think it's a really cool set. The Mastiff is not great. The Metagross, a lot of people have already made videos about it, but we'll take a quick peek at it anyway. Once during a turn, switch deck for basic Psychic Energy and a basic Mental Energy attachment to your Psychic Pokemon or your Metal Pokemon any way you like. So a lot of people are made videos about that, so definitely check those out. I love this Persian EX. I really want to make a video about it. It has the first attack, Haughty, or I think it's Haughty, orders. Your opponent reveals the top 10 cards of their deck. You may choose an attack from a Pokemon you find there and use this attack. Your opponent shuffles your cards back into their deck. I think that is so cool. Being able to just have the chance to just be like, yeah, I'm going to Phantom Dive your thing. Or I'm going to just, boom, I'm going to punch. You know, but the problem is the way the format is right now, a lot of people are like flooding the bench with their stuff. So you have to get into the Team Rocket's Persian EX really early. But still think this card's really cool. And I've also just been like a huge fan of Persian EX. Persian's like probably one of my favorite Pokemon from Kanto, so that's pretty cool. Let's look at some of the trainers here. I don't think any of them are super great. The only one I could really point out is the Cynthia's Power Weight gives, you know, plus 70 HP, which is pretty cool. Draw 2 cards, your opponent has 3 or fewer, you draw 2 more. Energy Recycler being back is pretty cool. Shuffle basic 5 basic energy cards from your discard pile back into your deck. Pretty pumped about that. This is the Ethan Adventures card. Just deck for up to any combination of 3 Ethan's Pokemon and Fire Energy. Put them in your hand. Granite Cave. This is all Stevens related stuff. Just makes them take 30 less. You got a cool reprinted Judge. You got Sacred Ash Shuffle. Up to 5 Pokemon for your discard pile back into your deck. So basically just a more broken Super Rod. Spike Muth Gym. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a Marnie's Pokemon, which is pretty interesting. Team Rocket's Archer. Each player shuffles their deck. You draw 5, your opponent draws 3, so kind of like a more like unfair stampy kind of thing. Team Rocket's Ariana. If all of your Pokemon in play are Team Rocket Pokemon, you draw 8 cards, but if not, you draw 5. Bother Bot. Choose one of your opponent's face down prize cards and a random card in their hand, and then they reveal them, and then you may have your opponent switch the revealed card. I think this is pretty cool. I can love to see this getting played in a control deck. I think that'd be awesome. When that player plays a supporter with Team Rockets in the name, you may draw 2 cards. Pretty cool. Giovanni, switch your actives Rockets Pokemon with one of your bench Rockets Pokemon. If you do, then switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. So you kind of get to switch yours and switch theirs, which is pretty cool. Great Ball, flip a coin, and if it's, you know, heads, you get an evolution. If it's tails, you get basic, so it's just capturing Aroma, but for Team Rocket Pokemon. Search deck for a train card, reveal it, put it in your hand. For Petrol, Proton, if you go first, you can use a card during your first turn. Search deck for 3 basic Team Rocket's Pokemon, reveal and put them in your hand. Transceiver, search deck for a supporter card with Rocket in the name, put it in your hand. Flip a coin. If heads, 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. If tails, you put 2 damage on your active Pokemon, which is kind of cool. So you could just like Monkey Dory it off. Both players, colorless Pokemon, have no abilities for the Watchtower, so that was kind of interesting. TM Machine, search deck for up to 3 Pokemon tool cards with Technical Machine in their name. Reveal them, put them in your hand. So being able to just get 3 tool cards, Technical Machine Evolution, De-Evolution, Turbo Energize. Oh gosh, there's a couple other ones like Blindside. I can't think of the other ones right now. And then lastly, Team Rocket's Energy. This card can only be attached to Team Rocket's Pokemon. If this card is attached to any other Pokemon, it gets discarded as long as Pokemon is attached. It provides 2 in any combination of Psychic and Dark Energy. So works out pretty cool, especially for my Persian EX. And I think the arts in this set are really awesome. If you guys ever have time to just like look through these arts, they're absolutely insane. I think this one's like one of my favorites. Everybody got a lot of hate on this one, but I loved it. I thought it was super cool. The Mewtwo is also awesome. The only card I really want to pull, like art-wise, out of this set is I really want this Persian. I think this Persian I think it just goes hard, and I want it so bad. But we'll have to see. So, like I said, Persian kind of being one of like my top 5-ish favorite Pokemon. But the art in this set, like I said, is just insane. So, but that's going to do it for today's video. So if you guys enjoyed the content, I haven't made sure for the channel, definitely leave a like, smash the subscribe button. I would appreciate it. And I will see you all when I come back from Florida. Peace.